Ladies and gentlemen, friends all, welcome. Thank you for joining us here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica Quality Institute as we stage this webinar, Preventive versus Predictive Maintenance, Choosing the Right Strategy for Operational Excellence. Indeed, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you who are joining us today. This session, as I've said, is being hosted by the Bureau of Standards Jamaica through its Quality Institute and forms part of the Quality Institute's continued series of informative sessions designed to expose industry professionals, organizations, and other stakeholders to important areas that can strengthen their operations and support business excellence. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica, as many of you will know, is an agency within the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Jamaica's business ministry, and we're very happy to welcome all of you who have joined us today. We're particularly pleased to have you with us because maintenance is one of those areas that can sometimes operate quietly in the background until something goes wrong. And when equipment fails, the consequences can be anything but quiet. A failed production line, a malfunctioning cold chain unit, an unavailable piece of lab equipment, an HVAC failure, or an interruption to IT infrastructure can affect productivity, service delivery, customer satisfaction, safety, and ultimately your company's bottom line. So today's discussion takes us beyond simply asking, how do we maintain our equipment? And the more strategic question is, how do we maintain our assets in a way that delivers the greatest value at the right cost and with the right level of risk? We're going to invite at this time Miss Janelle Carnegie, our Senior Certification Officer at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica's Quality Institute, to offer prayer.
Thanks, Mr. Ling. Let us pray. Most righteous and heavenly Father, as we gather this morning, we give you thanks. Thanks for waking us up this morning. Thanks for a new day. We thank you, Lord, for your love, your grace, your mercy, which are renewed each day. Oh Lord, as we begin today's proceedings, we ask that you be with us throughout the session. Give our speakers wisdom and clarity as they share on this very important topic, Lord. Help them to communicate in a way that is clear and meaningful. Lord, we pray also for everyone who has joined us here today. Open our minds to receive the information being shared, and may this webinar be beneficial to our industry needs. We place this webinar in your hands, O Lord, and ask for your continued guidance and blessing. All glory and honor belongs to you, Lord, and in everything we give thanks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you so very much for that prayer. As we continue our session this morning, it is my pleasure to invite Miss Kimberly Powell, acting as Unit Manager, to bring remarks. Make her welcome as she comes.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to all participants this morning. Indeed, we are privileged to have you here today. So on behalf of the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this very important webinar titled Predictive versus Preventive Maintenance, Choosing the Right Strategy for Operational Excellence. Now, there is a common saying that I'm pretty certain many of us grew up hearing: prevention better than cure, right? Now, while we often use this proverb with regards to our health and well-being, certainly it is equally relevant in the world of business and industry. Organizations that have major issues are generally better positioned to reduce cost, improve efficiency, and achieve sustainable success. And let me emphasize the sustainable success. So today's webinar invites us to take that thinking one step further by exploring whether preventing failure is enough, or should we now be looking at predicting failure before it occurs to deliver even greater benefits? Now, for many of us, Bureau of Standards, once persons hear about Bureau of Standards Jamaica, they immediately think about standards development. And rightly so, right? We are mandated to develop and promote standards. However, did you know that the Bureau of Standards also hosts Jamaica's National Metrology Institute? So metrology is actually the science of measurement. And so with that, we are also mandated to maintain the country's measurement standards, ensuring that measurements are accurate, they are reliable, and importantly, they are traceable. So whether we are in manufacturing, engineering, agriculture, trade, accurate measurements form the backbone to quality, efficiency, and confidence in decision making. Through the Quality Institute, the Bureau is also committed to developing quality knowledge and strengthening capacity within organizations all across the country and regionally. As a part of this commitment to education and capacity building, the Quality Institute regularly hosts webinars on top. We host webinars on topics that impact organizations across various sectors, creating opportunities to share insights, spark discussion, and promote best practices. These conversations often pave the way for deeper learning through a wide range. And when I say wide range, I mean a wide range of training programs, which therefore allows participants to further strengthen their knowledge and their skills. Today's topic is no different. Very timely, as across industries, organizations are constantly seeking ways to improve their equipment reliability, to reduce downtime, to optimize maintenance cost, and to increase their operational efficiency. The maintenance strategy in an organization often can, and might I say, does have a significant impact on its performance, on its profitability, and the long-term sustainability. We therefore look forward to an engaging and informative session that will help us better understand the differences between predictive and preventive maintenance and how these approaches can support operational excellence. Thank you for joining us today. We trust that you will find the webinar both informative and beneficial, and that the knowledge learned will be able to assist you in your day-to-day lives and to improve your individual companies. Thank you again for joining, and have a wonderful session.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so very much for that, for the remarks from the Quality Institute, and for just helping to set the stage for all of our participants. I'm going to invite Miss Deidre Taylor. She is the manager of the Quality Institute, the Bureau of Standards Jamaica Quality Institute. Today, she sits with us as the acting director, Standards Division. But she's going to engage with us just a little bit, just to find out where we are and to help as we lay the foundation for today's presentation. Deidre.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
I hope that all of us can be as bright as you are.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm very bright, and I'm so happy that you use that particular word because I want to have a fun check-in. So I'm going to bring up my screen, and I'm going to ask you guys to just bring out your cameras, right? And then scan the QR code so we can have a fun check-in. Are you seeing ISO 27001?
Yes,
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
good. All right, are you seeing another screen with a QR code?
we are. I
All right,
am.
go ahead and scan the QR code. And I just have three quick questions. This is a getting to know you phase before you get to know a little bit more about preventive and predictive maintenance. All right. Wow. Wow. Persons are joining. All right. All right. As soon as they reach 50, I feel like I'm on one of those TikTok lives. They said, like up the live. Yes. All right, we're at 50, so I'll go ahead. All right. So pretty quickly, in one word, just tell me how are you feeling today. So just write it and then click submit, and it will come up on the screen as a word cloud. Blessed, very good, amazing. So you see, Mr. Ling, I'm not the only person being bright today. Oh geez, someone wrote exhausted as soon as I felt happy. All right, we're going to fix that. Okay, that person who's exhausted works in maintenance. I know you worked last night. We're going to fix that today, right, Dr. Miller? Great, but hungry. At this
Correct.
blessed hour of the morning, you're hungry. Can't fix that, right? Oh, yes, we can fix that. The Bureau does testing of food products. So we ensure that the food you consume is safe. So ensure that wherever you go to buy food, yes, it's somewhere where the Bureau tested the product. Yeah. Okay, all right, all right. We're getting there. Grateful is the biggest thing. So that represents a majority share of the participants here. So moving right along. All right, do you work with machines daily? And the remote doesn't count. Just saying. Nor the fan at home. Because we know at this blessed time of year, if we consider the fan, everybody work with machines daily. All right. All right. So we see that the majority of participants so far work with machines. All right. Pressing along. I think this is the final question. What is your job title? And if you are self-employed, do not feel cute. Just say self-employed. But we want to have an idea if we have more persons here for, yeah, man, I could tell you quality control. We are the ones, every audit and inspect here. Mr. Lenga said we are the ones. I'm still in quality. My
We are
mind
in
is
quality. That's our business, quality.
Oh, yes, and I work at the Quality Institute. I don't feel bad. Yes, I'm happy to see medical technologies looking so big, which means we have many persons from medical technology. Not sure if Dr. Miller's presentation was cute to facilitate that, but we're going to make it work. Right, Dr. Miller, I'm picking on you a lot, but I'm
Certainly.
happy to see I'm happy to see that we have many persons here from a wide cross section of industries. I didn't know so many medical professionals would be here. I'm very happy to see that we have persons in education, and certainly pleased to see the heavy duty mechanics here. I think that's it from me in terms of the fun check-in. So thank you. Have a great session. Happy to be in another chair today, not doing too much.
Thank you so much, Deidre. So we got grateful. Many persons indicating this sense of gratitude, not only for the new day that we have, but for the opportunity to learn and to share with others in our field. So as we continue, and just before we get into the introduction of our special presenter today, just want to continue setting the context for us that across Jamaica and internationally, organizations are increasingly moving away from the traditional reactive, fix it when it breaks approach. And that model may appear economical because maintenance is performed only when something goes wrong. But the apparent saving can quickly disappear when we factor in emergency repairs, downtime, lost production, replacement parts over time. And this applies across virtually every sector. But I'm not here to do the presentation this morning. That's not my task. My task now is to outline how we will operate for the rest of the day. Just a few housekeeping reminders for our online session. Again, we ask that participants remain muted unless invited to speak. Use the raised hand feature if you wish to make a verbal contribution, and this would be after our main presentation. Place questions or comments in the chat as they arise, and if you choose to have your camera on, certainly we ask that your background and surroundings are professional and appropriately managed. We will have persons monitoring the questions, and we will monitor the question and answer segment following the presentation, so please feel to submit your questions throughout the session. We encourage everyone to participate, and participation also includes listening keenly, picking up any points from our presenter. It's not intended to be simply a one-way presentation. We're looking forward to the questions that you will raise. The experiences you have, the questions you have from different sectors can help to make the discussion even more meaningful. And now we come to the main feature of today's webinar. The subject before us is one that has significant implications for organizations across virtually every sector. Preventive versus predictive maintenance, choosing the right strategy for operational excellence. Our presenter is a professional engineer registered with the Professional Engineering Registration Board. He is President and Chief Executive Officer of Innovative Energy Group Limited and brings more than 2 decades of technical and executive leadership experience in the engineering and energy sectors across Jamaica and the wider region. His academic and professional background includes a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, a master's degree in engineering management, and a doctorate in business administration, specializing in strategy and innovation. He has served in key leadership positions and brings to this discussion this morning a valuable combination of engineering expertise, executive leadership, and a strategic business experience. That combination is particularly relevant to today's conversation because maintenance decisions cannot be considered solely from the perspective of engineering. They must also be considered in terms of strategy, risk, operational continuity, resource allocation, and financial performance. So we at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica Quality Institute are therefore delighted to have Dr. Conrad Miller with us to explore how organizations can make better informed decisions about their maintenance strategies. Dr. Miller, we welcome you and look forward to your presentation, Preventive versus Predictive Maintenance, Improving Reliability, Reducing Downtime, and Optimizing Cost. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, we welcome him to the virtual podium. Please put some emojis in the chat as we make him warmly welcomed.
Thank you, Mr. Leng, for that warm welcome. And good morning. Before I even start my presentation, I want to say thank you to all of you attending the webinar today. And of course, thank you to the Bureau of Standards for making it happen. As you heard, I started out my career as a maintenance engineer Then I was a maintenance supervisor for 2 years. Then I was a maintenance superintendent for 3 years and a maintenance manager for 5 years. Now, if you're trying to add all those years up, let me help you out. It's a lot of years of maintenance. So we are going to have quite an interesting time learning about one of, if not the most critical concepts in engineering and maintenance management. And today, we will be doing some, I would say, unorthodox things like giving vehicles to people in the audience. I have two high-end vehicles to give away. And to be clear, these are just virtual giveaways, all right? I know the BSJ is rich, but I'm not sure they're that rich. Or maybe they are, let me not say that. But through those unorthodox assignments, we want to see how our attendees today will interpret maintenance of their assets and which approaches make sense under what conditions. So stay tuned. Let's jump right into it. Something I've realized is that the more knowledgeable people are about maintenance engineering, is the more they find themselves debating what I like to call the true categories of maintenance. And this is real. I actually had one person reach out to me, a colleague, to say that we should probably adjust the title of this presentation. Why? Because in his mind, predictive is a type of preventive. And I said to myself, okay, so here we go with that age-old argument. And you soon understand why. But I wouldn't be a good trainer if I hadn't seen that one coming. So let me clear it up once and for all. Whatever structure we discuss here today, you absolutely can find a video somewhere on YouTube that describes it differently. And I'm here to tell you, it does not matter. It doesn't matter. The various structures are all shared in order to give a mental framework that helps you follow some logical decision-making path, whether you are applying maintenance to any equipment or to your facility, as long as you understand when each type is to be best applied. As long as you understand the pros and the cons and in what context. That, my friends, is what you want to achieve. Getting stuck on the definitions is only going to be a distraction. Remember, I said that. So we are here to focus on predictive and preventive maintenance. But in order to do that, we need to first understand the full spectrum of maintenance methodologies, but explained in what I believe to be a simple and instinctive way. So bear with me, because we will simmer for a little bit in this before delving into the main topic. It's that important. So here we go. Once you have an asset, which is an item you've acquired in order to perform a particular function, you automatically make a high-level decision about whether you intend to be proactive about how you maintain it or reactive about how you maintain that asset. Simple. If I am proactive, it means that I am making a consistent effort to prevent the failure of that equipment. Whether I'm maintaining it as a frequency or by checking its condition, both proactive. But if I'm reactive, then I'm either reacting to a defect or I did nothing until the equipment completely stops performing its function. And if you're thinking, but Dr. Miller, why would anybody ever do that? Well, reactive maintenance can be a valid approach. It can, believe it or not. And there are two main answers to that question. The theoretical response is that as prudent asset owners, there are some assets that when we do the calculation, and there is a calculation, but we won't go through that today because, well, we can't give all the milk away for free, right? Or is it the cow? Well, whatever, my grandmother used to tell me. But the point is that there are only two reasons that you would need to be proactive with an asset. One is that the replacement value of that asset is high. So if you don't maintain your car, for example, and you damage the engine, now you have that $1 million bill that isn't covered by insurance, right? That's one. The second reason is impact of failure. So sure, maybe the cost of the asset itself is low, but maybe the failure affects safety, another process, something else that is high in value. Let me say that again. Sometimes the failure of a low cost asset or item can result in a high impact. And this is touching on what we call asset criticality matrix, another topic that will be covered in the BSJ course. A good example of that is, and here's the first group question now. So I own a guitar, right? And the reality, and this is true, the strings on the guitar can randomly fail. So the question is, should I allow the string, so these are the strings, to fail, then change it, meaning I am reactive with my maintenance? Or should I change the strings every few months, meaning that I am what? Proactive with my maintenance. Let me hear what the chat says. Feel free to write it, or you may raise your hand, answer. Which should I choose? Come, let's get alive. Okay, response is coming in. All right. I'm seeing reactive every few months, proactive. Okay, RV is low. All right, I like these. Have backup strings. Okay, interesting, good. And I like these answers. And just so you know, this is a trick question, and here's why. The failure of the string itself doesn't destroy the guitar. So we can agree that the high replacement value isn't a factor in this case. But reason number two, and if you remember what it is, the impact can apply. So it depends. Now, if I'm just playing as a hobby, then it's not a big deal if it is that I lose a string. Whenever I get to it, I get to it. But what if I play live music at a club on Fridays, and in the middle of that paid performance, I lose a string and cannot perform at all? See how that changes the ball game? So same asset, same guitar, but now the cost of that $500 string is nothing compared to the embarrassment I might face as a professional guitarist. So I would rather frequently check and change the strings based on condition. Or I might just change all of them every few months regardless, just to minimize that risk. I see a question is from Alfred Barrett. Go ahead, Alfred. Not a question? Okay, we're not hearing you, Alfred, so we'll get back to you. But that example shows that sometimes it's not about the asset itself, it's about what role it plays, whether in your life or in your process. And right there, some of you may have just picked up that I've just described both the predictive and the preventive approaches to that one scenario. Now, if you didn't pick up, that's fine. I know we have a wide range of attendees today. That is why we are here. So we'll definitely get there in a few minutes. One more example before we move on. I also own a share. So my second question is, should I follow the maintenance instructions that comes with, where is it, this paper? That every few months I should dismantle it, lubricate the internal parts, change worn parts, all of that. Again, what do you guys think? Come on, I want to see the chat. Okay, great. Go ahead, Lab Gene Smith. Okay, I'm seeing answers.
Morning. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay. My response to your question is that it depends. Similar to the guitar, if it's a case where you don't need to, and you just need to change, you don't need to change it every couple months, and you probably just need to have the spare parts there,
Okay.
then you
Okay.
change it when the need arises.
Ah, I like that. I like your answer. Thank you for your response. And I'm seeing in the chat, it is dependent. Carry on says yes. Sigismund Edwards, okay, great. And one person said, do nothing until it breaks. All right, thanks for your answers. So it seems that we're getting a hang of it. So again, it depends, because if I'm a barber and my entire livelihood depends on this tool working when I need it, then yes. But as a domestic user, if my shear fails after 3 years of no maintenance, it might not be worth the hassle, given the replacement cost. I noted someone said follow the instructions, and that might be an option depending on how involved you have to be for the instructions. Is it going to cost you? What could you do with the time otherwise? But for me, if my shear fails after 3 years, no maintenance, not worth the hassle to do a weekly maintenance. All right? Am I being understood so far? Yes, seeing nods. Great. So let's continue. So thank you. So we've established that depending on what your risks are and the cost of the equipment, we always, whether intentionally or unintentionally, decide to be either proactive in our approach or reactive in our approach. This slide should look familiar. This is where it all started. Preventive versus predictive. Except that now you have a much better context in terms of how preventive and predictive are related and how they are actual expressions of maintenance management principles. Preventive maintenance now is what most organizations rely on. And we heard this earlier. It's structured, it's disciplined, and it feels safe. The service equipment, well, the equipment is actually serviced at fixed intervals, meaning every month, every 6 months, every year, whether it needs to or not. And somebody earlier said, follow the instructions. Typically, there's a manual that comes with that equipment, and the manual is stating what should be done and when, what parts should be changed. And you may have wondered, where did this come from? Sometimes it is influenced by the manufacturer, because the manufacturer does benefit from selling you parts for the equipment. But it is also partially influenced by failures. So if the manufacturer has found that this part, the bearing fails typically after X amount of run hours or time, then they would recommend that. So they service at the equipment at fixed intervals. But things and times are changing. So now, okay, Georgia Brown noted. So now we get to talk about giving away these virtual cars to the audience. Not sure if it's in your colors, but we are giving away virtually a BMW X6, a Benz GLE, and a Pro Box. So no problem. You know what? I'll take the Pro Box. And I want 2 persons. Wait, looks like we have a volunteer already. Okay. Doctor, I have volunteers, so let me try and read it. Somebody said Pro Box not bad enough. True. Very reliable. All right.
Affordable too.
And affordable. Can you see who picked the X6 first and then the GLE? Is that Dion Black?
Kerry and Reed picked the X6 first.
Okay. Ms. Reed, X6. And for the GLE, is that Dion Black?
Yes.
All right. So we have 2 persons driving out of here with their brand new vehicles. Great. So for my car, the Pro Box, every 5,000 kilometers or so, or maybe every 68 months, just to be safe, because I don't have any additional indication, I will change the oil, change the filter. That's preventive maintenance, because I'm not making my decisions based on the actual conditions of the car. But how do you think a luxury top tier vehicle like what Miss Reed and Miss Blake have? Is it Reed? Kerry Reed? I have the names correct, right? Right. How do you think these vehicles might indicate actual engine conditions and guide the timing for their servicing through condition monitoring? And this is my third question. I understand prices are to be won, folks. Anyone? Tell me out again. How might a luxury top tier vehicle through condition monitoring determine the timing for its servicing?
Sensors and the dealership recommendation.
Repeat that for me.
It's better Simpson must be here. Sensors, indicators from the vehicle, and the suggestions from the dealership or maintenance from the dealership.
Okay, great. So you mentioned sensors, and I'm seeing in the chat the vehicle monitors itself and prompts when the maintenance is needed. It sounds like somebody who owns one. Stacy and said, well, the luxury car will give you a prompt. Okay, perfect. And Dr. Haynes managed on the app. All right. So yes, oil quality, we spoke about sensors. Oil quality is one. So if the oil is degrading, air filter blockages, restricted airflow, various sensors, all of those, great. Thank you. And it then projects the timing for the maintenance based on those readings. The preventive maintenance approach assumes that time equals wear. WEAR, wear. Time equals wear. And that is not always true. Because if it were true, we would all change our car tires on a calendar schedule. Imagine if every year, no matter how new the tire was, you had to change it every single year or every 10,000 kilometers. I mean, we could, but it would neither be financially prudent nor sensible. Why? Because 10,000 kilometers on a highway, for example, is totally different from the tire condition after 10,000 kilometers on, I would say, there was terrible Portmore roads, if you're from Portmore. So the question becomes, can we do better than just maintaining solely based on time or run hours, calendar based? And as we just saw, the question is a resounding yes. Instead of relying on a calendar, predictive maintenance relies on condition. We're no longer asking, has it been 6 months yet? No, we are now asking, what is the equipment actually telling us? So going back to the car example, if you drive the X6 like Miss Reed now drives and Miss Blake for the JLE, then you may have a dashboard that prompts or tells you that based on the actual oil quality, when to service the vehicle. That's predictive maintenance. And in the industry world, on machinery, we monitor things like vibration, temperature, performance trends. And those parameters tell us something is starting to change. And then we anticipate when to intervene. Everybody with me? Dr. Hayes? Okay, I see you're nodding now. It's great. In the case of a car, does anyone know what we actually measure on the tire to know when to change it? We spoke about the tire earlier, but we didn't finish that thought. Changing a tire. What's the predictive monitoring for that?
The grooves, or
okay.
Sometimes in our Jamaican cases when it starts showing the little metals.
Okay. Oh, that's far. But yes. If you're seeing metal, you have ignored a lot of the signs before. But yes, I understand. So the first, thanks for your answers. So 18 responses come in, yes. So thank you. So we start monitoring what you call the thread. Right, so the thread depth is what you call it. So when it reaches that limit, and in reality, it could take 6 months to thin down to that mark, or it could take 3 years, depending on how you drive. So if you drive like Miss Blake and Miss Reed, it could wear you down, it could wear down in a month, who knows? Of course, additionally, we have to consider other tire conditions as well, such as bulges, as people call it in Jamaica, baby. The tires are baby on it, cracks in the rubber, etc. And my final question on this, what if I decide to change my tires based on the age of the tires? So there's a manufacturer date on the tire, and I'm looking and I say, oh, it's 10 years old. I'm going to change it based on the date. What type of maintenance would that be? Let's see if you've been following. Based on the date. The Black says, then we have a big problem. Okay. All right. I'm still seeing some people saying predictive, but I do see a person saying preventive. So once it is not information that is telling the condition of the tire, then it's not predictive. If I'm doing it based on time or the age, then it would be, yes, Alfred Barrett, it would be preventive. All right, great. Let me see the time. All right, so I have approximately 10 minutes before I close. I want to mention that as the CEO of Innovative Energy Group, it would be remiss of me not to speak about preventive and predictive as it relates to even installed solar systems. As you know, IG, we are a publicly traded company and we install solar systems at the residential, commercial, and soon to be utility levels across Jamaica. But I'm not wearing that hat today. I know our sales agent, Sharon Harb, is here. He'll leave his contacts in the chat for anybody who is interested. So I'll leave that there. But the question I want to ask is, preventive maintenance on solar panels would be activities like washing panels at a set frequency, maybe every year, every 2 years. What do you think? And I see my class getting active and bright now. So let's see. What do you think predictive maintenance on solar panels might look like? So if I wash on a time-based, that's preventive. What would predictive look like for those same panels? How do I judge the conditions of those panels? All right, seeing some responses. Come on, can guess. Need to learn more about solar. Okay, fair enough. All right, and someone said, all right, Mr. Edwards, Sigismund Edwards, I think you're doing some courses outside, you know. Alfred Barrett. Alfred, we might have to give you a prize. Energy watt output, yes, yes, perfect, perfect. So those latter ones are correct, are the latest ones. So we would measure things like drop in efficiency, reduction in the power output based on irradiance or the sun. So if when it was new, a certain amount of irradiance gave 10 kilowatts. Now, 2 years later, it's giving you 7 kilowatts, right? Same amount of sun. Then we can say, well, it seems as if the panels are coated in dirt or need cleaning, all right? So again, you're sensing the difference that once it's condition-based or output-based, you're measuring something to determine the health of that equipment, then it's predictive, all right? Great. So in conclusion, predictive maintenance allows us to detect early and intervene before failure. Instead of maintaining too early or too late, we maintain at the right time. It is the difference between a schedule and a strategy. So when we compare the two approaches, let's be clear now, both have value. So Dr. Haynes, I don't want to hear that you stop servicing your vehicle because Dr. Miller said preventive is a waste of money. No, both have value. Preventative maintenance is definitely safer than doing nothing, but it can lead to unnecessary work and cost. Predictive maintenance, on the other hand, focuses on timing, doing the right work at the right moment. And that's where the real savings come from. Not doing more maintenance, but doing targeted maintenance. Now, here's a catch. I'm quite sure that you noticed the difference in cost between Dr. Reed, Miss Reed, Miss Blakes, and my car, right? So there's a difference in cost between those top-end vehicles and the Pro Box. It is not a coincidence. Continual monitoring of conditions, fancy sensors, and programming, they do come at a noticeable cost. And as demonstrated in the first 5 slides of this presentation, we have to justify first that cost based on what? Impact and what? And the asset value. Because in the end, Oh, Miss Black, thank you for that correction. So in the end, the goal is not to do more maintenance. It is to do the right maintenance on the right asset at the right time. So I'm sure somebody here is thinking right now, okay, but what does this have to do with reliability and downtime? Because you promised us to tell us about reliability and downtime. So let me answer that. Once you maintain optimally, then you have less failures, better reliability. But also, preventive maintenance is done with your equipment offline. They take the car to the mechanic, it's not available to you. Preventive maintenance is done offline. And even though you're maintaining it, it is still counted as downtime, right? So less downtime, more availability, more reliability, and optimized cost. Your maintenance choices, ladies and gentlemen, are critical. And that shift from activity, busy, to accuracy is what defines high performing operations. And it is what we delve into much more in our full day course here at the BSJ. So we help highlight where organizations are actually losing money without realizing it, and help you identify when predictive maintenance truly adds value and when it does not. So I do look forward to seeing you all there. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you all for your attention and participation. I now hand over to you, Mr. Leng. Thank you.
I didn't get any of the cars, Dr. Miller.
I still have the Pro Box, Mr. Leng.
I
So
will
let
take
me
the
know.
Pro Box. I'll take the Pro
Okay.
Box. I'll take the Pro Box. But thank you very much. Thank you for that informative, really informative for me, and quite a thought-provoking presentation. I do appreciate it, as I'm sure all of the 152 other participants on this call. I believe one of the important messages coming out of today's discussion is that maintenance should not be viewed simply as a cost center or as an activity that takes place when equipment fails. It's an important component of operational strategy and asset management. Ultimately, the goal is not to maintain everything all the time. The goal is to maintain the right things at the right time in the right way to achieve the required level of performance and reliability. That sounds like I got it right? All right.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Great. I hope that several of the other participants who themselves may be in the necessary fields will also have been able to reconsider and to rethink some old age ideas and to look at how we move forward. The choice between reactive, preventive, predictive, or indeed a combination of approaches should be informed by the nature of the asset, its criticality, its failure characteristics, the consequences of failure, available data, and the overall economics of the operations. I'm really hoping that today's presentation, which you have so interestingly presented, Dr. Miller, is very good for all of our participants and will spur them to will spur them to participate in the training sessions offered by the Quality Institute of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. But over to questions and answers. And we know that persons will be bringing with questions those persons who may disagree with some of the perspectives that you have brought. We ask you now to raise your hands, use the raise hand feature, or if you have questions in the chat, I'm going to ask Deidre, Janelle, and Kimberly, if you could just look through to see if there are any questions and bring them to our attention. Just open your mic and raise it from those three ladies. And from the rest of the participants, please raise your hands. We'll take them in the order in which they are raised.
Miss Odette Knight asked, oh my, where did it go? Miss Knight? So many
Odette,
came
thank you
after
so
you.
much for having attended. And there's a question you say from Odette?
Yes,
Yes.
the question is, if you do a daily inspection of equipment, is that predictive or preventive?
Okay, thanks for the question. So daily inspection would be preventive, right? Unless it is that you are taking measurements of the, say, temperatures. So if you're measuring parameters, then that is collecting, that's condition monitoring, condition-based monitoring. But I suspect when you say daily, you're maybe just doing the checks that came with the manual. So the manual might say, check the brake, check the, open the engine, check oil level. So those are preventive.
Odette, if you want to continue to engage Dr. Miller, just to clarify, that might be helpful if you are able to speak. I know sometimes we might not be in a space where we're able to open our mics, but if you can, that would be good for the discussion. All right. Not hearing from Odette, so we're going to take the question from Errol Dakin.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I think it's a good theoretical presentation, but speaking from a lab perspective,
Yeah.
I was expecting something more practical. Like in Jamaica, we have a problem. I can speak on behalf of most of the labs.
Okay.
In terms of maintenance of equipment, it's totally lacking. So we can assume that there are certain things that you need to do and you can do it within the lab. But we have to rely on overseas people to come and service our equipment. They're charged by the hour and it's very expensive. So one thing I see lacking in Jamaica, and that needs to be addressed, is that we need expertise in Jamaica. Because the time it takes these people to come and to pay them and all, your equipment is out of commission for weeks and months, maybe even more, depends. Right? So that needs to be addressed. That's one thing that needs to be addressed locally. Another thing I'm thinking about, like the equipment, I don't know if there's an inventory of all the equipment, major equipment in labs across Jamaica. So we could categorize them and organize them that Jamaica have 50 GCMS, 100 HPLC, 10 LCMS, 10 ELISA plate reader, so that any program that you organize, it could be centered around those based on what is available.
Right.
Errol, just before Dr. Miller comes, I just wonder, isn't this maybe an opportunity for a business opportunity existing here?
It is.
Maybe that is something, Errol, that you might want to zero in on, since you recognize the gap that we face as a country. But Dr. Miller and then Deidre.
Okay, thank you. So thanks for the question, Errol. So the first thing that came to mind when you said extensive downtime, it sounds as if it's a separate issue that you're facing. And I think that's what we're highlighting here, because if it is that the equipment is down, then it actually failed before you did the maintenance. So I'm not sure what triggered it or whether you're doing predictive or not. So it's not, I wouldn't say that the theory itself is lacking. I would say that the equipment, and this is something that comes up when we speak about when we choose or you put timelines for your maintenance, what determines that timeline? So we start off with the manual, yes, but if let's say the spares for my equipment, if I can get them down the road, then it's a different situation from if it's gonna take me 4 months to get the spares. So timeline, availability, there are several factors that we need to look into. So when I create a program, a maintenance program, I'm not just looking at what the manual says. And I don't know the specific situation, but it can be that we need to be adjusting this, right? Adding to it 4 or 5 other factors that affect how many spares I should keep as critical spares in the stores or the warehouse, if you have that, who is doing the job. And as you said, if it is that we need to train locally, then that would be a point as well. Mr. Leng, moderator.
Thank you for that. I think Deidre is the next.
I was pointing out, was going to speak on what the attendee just said, but then I think Dr. Miller kind of cleared that up. So bringing your attention to Albertha Rogers Miller in the chat.
Could somebody read that for us?
Okay, she
Are you
says
suggesting
so you
that we
okay.
should be both preventive and predictive in our approach to safe cost? So are you
Oh,
suggesting that we should be
mhm.
both preventive and predictive in our approach to safe cost?
Yes, and that's a good question. So it's both in terms of, let's say I'm at a facility. What we should not do is have a blanket approach to the maintenance. Based on what I shared earlier, what we should do is individually assess whether this equipment, once we've done the asset criticality matrix, and what we call in the matrix is actually assigning numbers to each equipment based on the y-axis, you would have the asset value and then the criticality, the impact to the operations. Why is it critical? Why is it so important? Because one plant can have a pump that is low on the impact to them, same pump, because they have redundancy of that pump. So I couldn't sit here and decide that, oh, you need to do vibration analysis on that pump. You don't if you have 10 of those pumps that you can close this off, start another pump because you have redundancy. If that is the one pump that pumps the fluid into your process, and when it stops, the entire process stops. Now you're looking at same pump, but we can see that the impact is high and it's worth it to have somebody do vibration analysis on that pump to determine when the bearings are going. So the short answer to that is that you have to do that asset criticality matrix and then determine what balance of preventive versus predictive. So we won't totally get rid of preventive, but you want to have your equipment online and you want to put your resources elsewhere because preventive can be expensive as well if you're changing parts before they are ready to be changed. So Mr. Len, just to summarize that, is that I would say the most effective organizations actually don't use one maintenance strategy. So they use a mix based on the cost, the risk, and the criticality.
Thank you for that. Deidre?
Just to go back to the participant before, I'm not sure if he was fully satisfied with the response, but I think based on what Dr. Miller just expounded on just now, I too can identify with his challenges coming from a life of production in the past. And I think a part of, even though I know that's not the type of maintenance Dr. Miller is talking about, but I think it is important to invest in terms of competence, staff competence, so persons are able to detect when things are going awry. If you notice, when Dr. Miller was asking about the solar panels, I had no idea what to write. I actually was going to write that when the bulbs start to get discolored, and I'm like, do the panels even have bulbs? So it's due to my ignorance. You understand? So you truly can't maintain the equipment if you are ignorant, and that's why competence development is essential. So when you purchase these capital expenditure items like HPLC and all of those chromatography equipment he was referring to earlier, it is
Yeah.
important that the staff be trained because when you add the cost of sending for somebody overseas every time to come and maintain it, and just really not having that institutional knowledge, and you don't know if every time it fails, if it is causing significant damage to the equipment, it would work out better in the long run for you to get your staff trained so that they can identify um, what is going on in the equipment so it can be attended to before it fails. That's my contribution based on my understanding.
Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Deidre. And we recognize Georgia Brown. Please go ahead, Georgia.
Okay, I'm just going to piggyback on what Deidre was saying. It is also straight across the medical, because I've seen where we have medical labs that are responsible for the MOH situation, where things are down and they would have invested in major equipment and they don't have anybody to do the training. Once again, they have to now invest in these equipment that they pretty much have a caveat that the persons who sell these equipment are the ones who maintain it, and therefore the knowledge is kept with these companies. So our in-house persons don't know. They have to wait and sit, and then we are incurring all these costs. It becomes a real liability, and I don't know who is doing the risk for the with government actually. Why these things are not considered going forward.
Thank you for that contribution, Dr. Miller. I don't know if you want to respond to Georgia. And also there is a question from Odette who has sent another, Odette has shared another question. So if you want to respond to Georgia. But I think it's an important point just made there.
Yes, it is an important point. And I'm appreciating what she has. So thank you, Ms. Brown. I'm not seeing the question.
All right, so Odette's question is, what are your thoughts in using CMMS as a predictive and preventive maintenance tool?
Okay. So CMMS, and for those who are wondering what it means, computerized maintenance management is it's important. I pause because I've worked in places where there's no database, and what we used was an Excel sheet. Now it's very hard to manage frequencies that way if you have a lot of assets. But clearly it is useful, as it's more useful for preventive, I would say, right? But the different CMMS nowadays can be used for both predictive and preventive. Let me make sure that I'm answering the question in using CMMS as a predictive and preventive maintenance tool. Yes, so it is important depending on the amount of assets that you have. One thing that we tend not to use the program for, because we also have different features in these CMS programs, is the corrective maintenance tracking. So I did a preventative check and I found defects. How do I prioritize the activities from those checks? And for those who are in maintenance, you know that you find different defects. And now you have a backlog of 150 jobs. Are we issuing those jobs just based on time? First in, first out. And that's what happens a lot. But we should not be doing that. What we should have is some measurement of the criticality of these jobs. And of course, the question is going to be who determines that. So, so that's what the CMS is for. If you're using it properly and using all the features, then no, we can schedule the jobs based on priority. And priority is not just what we found, it is the equipment. Because the equipment itself, the asset itself, has a rating. So what I've done in the past is have them as a ABC. So once you fall in the critical, the A category, and these will be equipment that if these shut down, the plant shuts down. You have some equipment that if it shuts down, the plant doesn't shut down, but your throughput reduces. And then C is where it shuts down, it doesn't impact you right away. And they use that in the CMS to generate your work orders. So the ultimate answer this night is that we tend to talk about using the CMS, but I think that we have to utilize all the features that are there. Unfortunately, a lot of the time they're at a separate cost. So that's another mix.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Peter Gay, I think that might be Chang. Peter Gay Chang, you had your hand raised. Do you still have a question or a comment? Please let us know.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I had my hand up. Apologies.
No problem, no problem. Thanks, Peter Gay. Are there any other questions, audience? And if there are none, going once, going twice, going 3 times a predictive, preventive, or reactive maintenance, let me use the opportunity to thank you all for having participated in this session today, for having shared, for having raised your questions, for having made your comments, and for having interacted with the Dr. Miller at the point at which he was sharing. Thanks for all of you. Before we bring the session to a close, we do invite you to evaluate our sessions. And I'm asking one of the ladies to drop the link in the chat. And we invite you to complete the evaluation. We want to hear from you. The Quality Institute team, we will share an evaluation link. Yes, just shared. We strongly encourage you to take a few moments to complete the evaluation. Each time you provide feedback, you help us to understand what is useful to our stakeholders and how we can improve our processes here. You help us to identify areas for improvement and to shape future sessions around issues that matter most to you in industry. Today's session has provided a high-level overview and an opportunity to raise awareness about modern approaches to maintenance economics, reliability, and strategic asset management. For organizations and individuals who wish to go deeper into these areas, you have heard Dr. Miller speak of the training sessions afforded by the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute. We invite you to reach out to Miss Deidre Taylor and her team members, many of them on, and we're going to ask Deshawn, Kimberly, if you could just share the details again within the chat so that persons can reach out to us. We do ask for you to look at your organizations, to look at the needs of your organizations. And today we're looking a little bit more about engineering or technical aspects. But there may be gaps in your operations. There might be situations where, even based on the question that Errol raised, persons need to be trained. Your people need to be trained. And the Quality Institute offers a wide range of training opportunities, and we invite you to look at our website, bsj.org.jm, and to check on our training schedule. As we close today's webinar, let us return briefly to the central idea. Maintenance is no longer simply about fixing what has failed. It is increasingly about understanding our assets, understanding risk, understanding cost, and making informed decisions about how to sustain performance. Whether an organization is dealing with a manufacturing line, a cold chain system, lab equipment, heavy machinery, critical digital assets, the principle remains the same. Reliable assets support reliable operations, and reliable operations support better service, greater productivity, stronger customer confidence, and improved organizational performance. On behalf of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica and our Quality Institute, I thank all of you for having attended, and I thank Dr. Miller for his presentation. I thank all of you who took the time to participate. Very especially, let me express thanks to Janelle Carnegie, Kimberly Powell, Deidre Taylor, and in the background, Deshawn Bolton, Kimo Macallo. And to all of our participants, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. We look forward to hearing from you for the other sessions that we have, and we really do hope that today's session was meaningful. We wish you a productive and successful rest of the day. Again, on behalf of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, an entity in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Jamaica's business ministry, we are here to support your business and to make your business more profitable. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Take care.
Good, good. And just to indicate, the recording will be made available on our website, and persons can visit our website to view the recording and to share with colleagues who are not present today.